Walt Disney had a very interesting life. Though he is most well known for his triumphant adult life, he had a very tragic childhood and young adult life. He did not let these experiences define him in a negative way. Instead, he learned to grow from these experiences. All of the negative parts of his younger life were the building blocks for his future triumphant moments. Walter Elias Disney, Walt, was born on December 5, 1901 in Chicago, Illinois. He was born to Elias Charles Disney and Flora Call Disney. He was the fourth boy and had one younger sister. His family was not the most economically sound, but Walt's father always worked to give his family a chance at success. His father was where Walt learned that you need to finish what you start, which would be useful in the creation of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. This lesson gave Walt a sense of how much hard work was worth. His father was so busy trying to keep the family afloat, he neglected Walt. Walt did have one particular experience that brought him closer to his father as a child. Father got Walt a job as a paper delivery boy. All the money went to Walt's father. One day, Walt got extra papers to deliver behind his father's back and kept the money for himself. Though his father did not like this, the experience did give Walt a sense of entrepreneurship like his father. Meanwhile, Walt's mother was so busy taking care of the family chores and such, she was too busy to give Walt attention. Walt being neglected as a child led him to befriend many animals, one of these animals being Porker the Pig. Porker the Pig ended up being the inspiration for the Foolish Pig and the Three Little Pigs. Walt started drawing the animals, which was his first experience drawing. He sold these drawings to family and friends for around a nickel each. Walt had an education up until he dropped out of high school. His high school was where he took his first art classes. During this time, he also took classes at the Chicago Institute of Art. He dropped out of high school to join the military in World War I. However, he was too young at the time. The government would not let a 16-year-old join, so he looked for other options. He found out that the Red Cross allowed 17-year-olds to become ambulance drivers in France. He decided to forge his age by a year in order to join. Walt developed influenza while training to become an ambulance driver, leading him to be shipped out during war cleanup after the war had ended. He traveled to France where he started a lifelong addiction to smoke. He started gaining a little more art experience from learning French techniques as well as practicing by sketching the other volunteers. He was discharged from France on September 22, 1919. Upon arrival in Chicago, Walt Disney was able to get a job based on the art he did while in France. Walt got a job at Pesman Rubin Art Studio in Kansas City. This is where he met Ub Iwerks. Ub Iwerks went on to be one of Walt Disney's closest associates. Ub and Walt got laid off due to money shortages. They left and started their own company, later to be known as Laugh-O-Grams. The Laugh-O-Grams that they made were originally Newman Laugh-O-Grams. They were made to be shown in Newman theaters. Unfortunately, Walt Disney sold the Laugh-O-Grams for the same price as it cost to make them. Walt started a film called Alice's Wonderland. The company soon went bankrupt as they had no money coming in. Walt had no money and nowhere to go. He'd gotten evicted from both his apartment and his office. At this point, Walt was living on the streets, leading him to befriend a mouse. Walt took his film Alice's Wonderland and bought a train ticket to California. When Walt arrived in California, he moved in with his uncle, Robert Disney. In California, Walt Disney started a company named Disney Brothers Studios. The name of the company would soon be changed to Walt Disney Studios. The company was started by Walt Disney and his brother, Roy Disney. The studios where Walt met his wife, Lillian Marie Bounds. The two worked closely on several projects. Walt Disney's failures brought Lily and Walt closer together. After attending Roy's wedding to Patricia Daly together, Walt proposed to Lily. The two got married in 1925. Disney Brothers Studios brought on Ub Iwerks to work for them. The studio was where Oswald the Lucky Rabbit first came to be. Oswald the Lucky Rabbit was created for Universal Studios in an attempt to beat out Felix the Cat. Walt Disney sold these animations to Charles Mintz. Without telling Walt Disney, Charles Mintz put a copyright on the character. Charles Mintz put Walt Disney in a tight spot. Mintz took all of Disney's staff and started offering less money for the animations. Walt Disney decided to walk away from Oswald the Lucky Rabbit. Walt Disney sent his brother a telegram on his way home that said everything was okay. On the trip home, Walt Disney knew that he had to come up with some other way to keep his business running. On the train ride, he remembered the effect that mice had previously had on his life. He decided to come up with a character that was a mouse. This led him to create Mortimer Mouse. His team loved the character. Ub Iwerks did the original sketches for Mortimer. His wife, Lillian, was also part of the team. She liked the character, but did not like Mortimer's name. She gave Walt the idea to change Mortimer's name to Mickey. That was the birth of Mickey Mouse. 2 Mickey Mouse films were made and shown in theaters, and both films did not do well. The outlook for Mickey Mouse, and more importantly, Walt Disney Studios, was not looking good. Luckily, a saving grace came to Walt Disney Studios. Walt Disney Studios released one last Mickey Mouse cartoon as a chance for redemption. This film was Steamboat Willie. The film was an instant hit and was really the start of success for Walt Disney and his company. The film was the first animated cartoon to have synchronized sound incorporated. The film is considered to be the birth of Mickey Mouse. The Walt Disney Studios are going to celebrate Mickey and his girlfriend Minnie's 90th birthday on November 18th. Steamboat Willie was inducted into the National Film Registry in 1998. Walt Disney Studios hit a patch of success. However, people soon tired of the Mickey Mouse cartoons. Walt Disney soon realized that he would need something that no one had seen before, a spectacle. He decided to make a full-length film of his cartoons. He also wanted to make the film a landmark by fully incorporating synchronized sound. He settled on making a fairy tale, one of his original ideas. He started making Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. He began the project co-animating with Albert Herder. In 1934, he announced his new project to his studio. He worked hard on the project for 3 years and went nearly bankrupt. While on the verge of bankruptcy in 1937, he went to the bank for a loan. In fear of having another company fail, he worked harder than ever to finish the film quickly. He premiered Snow White on December 21st, 1937, and officially released the film in theaters on February 4th, 1938. The movie was an instant success. Walt entered a golden age of movies. Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs won an Oscar award in the form of one large statuette and 7 smaller statuettes. In his lifetime, Walt Disney Studios released over 80 films of different types. Walt Disney won 1 Primetime Emmy Award, 3 Golden Globe Awards, and 22 Academy Awards. His most famous characters were Mickey Mouse, Donald Duck, Goofy, Pluto, and Minnie Mouse. Some of his most famous movies during his lifetime were Mary Poppins, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, Peter Pan, Cinderella, Fantasia, and Lady and the Tramp. This golden age of success led Walt Disney to wanting more. He wanted to open a theme park. He started to make plans for a park named Disneyland in California. He needed funding in order to build the park. He started to fundraise, but nothing was enough. Finally, he came up with the perfect solution. Walt made a deal with ABC, a broadcasting company that his company would buy in 1995. The deal allowed Walt Disney Studios to fundraise through a 1-hour show on their television channel. The show was called Disneyland. Once Disney had raised enough money, he needed to find land. The locals of the town where he wanted to put the park would not allow him to buy any land. He ended up buying only 160 acres for his park. The park opened on July 17, 1955. The park was a very large success, unlike a previous soft opening of the park that was a complete disaster. The park was enough of a success that Walt decided to open a park on the east coast of the country. Walt knew that he could not buy land under the same way he did in California. Walt started to buy land under false names so that he could end up buying 25,000 acres of land in the Orlando, Florida area. Disney World was also a very large success. However, the project was not completed before Walt's death. Even when life seemed to be smooth sailing for Walt, he still experienced tragedy. He bought his parents a house in California to be near him and his family, as well as Roy and Roy's family. Flora and Elias Disney complained about the furnace in their California home often. Walt Disney heard this, so he sent a Disneyland workman over to the house to investigate the furnace. The handyman said it was fine. Very soon after, Flora Disney died of exposure to chemicals. This made Walt feel depressed with guilt. Walt Disney had many tragedies and triumphs in his life, such as this. One of his great triumphs was his family. Unfortunately, the couple had 2 miscarriages. He ended up having 2 daughters with Lily. The oldest was Diane Disney. The youngest was Sharon Disney, who was adopted since after having Diane, the couple experienced another miscarriage. Walt Disney died in 1966 of lung cancer due to his lifelong addiction to smoking. His daughters were 33 and 30. He died on December 15, 1966. His net worth at his death was $5 billion. His company is now worth around $165 billion. His brother Roy completed the Walt Disney World project, and in honor of Walt, he named the park Walt Disney World. Lillian Disney died on December 16, 1997. Walt Disney led a tragic early life that led him to great success and triumphs in his later years. He had a loving family consisting of 2 daughters and a loving wife. Without his tragedies, Walt Disney could have never reached his greatest achievements. He lived a very happy life.